Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is answering the question, can new medical coders work part-time? If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. The other day, I got a very good comment from a viewer who asked this very question. So I'm going to read the comment and then we're going to discuss. So let us begin. All right, so the comment goes, hello Blue, I am an LPN for 30 years. And just recently received my CCA in March of this year. CCA, if you don't know, is a Certified Coding Associate. No experience as a medical coder. I want to do medical coding part-time as a second job. My question is, do medical coders with no experience work part-time? Is that something that you've seen in the field at all? I'm not seeing this too much in my research. It doesn't seem like that is a common thing, but can you enlighten me on this? Thank you, and I personally enjoy all of your episodes. They are very informative and educational. Bless you. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your comment, and here we go. So, I will say this first. I don't know every employer in the world. So before you say, well, no, I know this person, that person does this or whatever, this is the research that I've done myself. And I do look at the job listings, not just in Texas, but I look at them in a lot of different states because I want to know what new medical coders are up against. And when I see positions for part-time medical coders, it is for coders who have experience. Now, I know I tell you guys all the time to apply, even if they're asking for experience. And in most cases, yes, when you're going for a full-time position. Medical coding is not something that you can do part-time when you are brand new. When you are brand new, you're going to need time to learn this. And it is going to take all of your time, which is why it makes me crazy when people think that you can do this as a side gig or the dreaded side hustle word. I can't stand that because medical coding is not a side hustle. This is not something like delivering pizza or doing something else or selling products or something. This is something that takes time. When you are in medical coding, you have to know what a doctor knows while never having gone to medical school. I say that in a lot of my episodes because it's true. And you have to be able to devote time to this. You have to be able to devote time to study. Now, when you are starting to work in a place, yes, the employer is not going to want to have to train you on how to code, but they are going to have to train you on their systems. And they want somebody, when they're doing part-time work, to be able to be dropped into a clinic and be confident to be able to start coding right away. Whereas if you have somebody that's brand new, they're going to ask questions. That is expected. So they want to maximize that part-time work and get as much production out of that part-time time as possible. And they know they cannot get this with somebody who's brand new with no experience. So if that is you out there and that you think that you can get into medical coding and maybe do it on the side or maybe do it part-time, this is going to take some devotion in order to get into it. And in order to get into it, you really have to devote your time to it because otherwise you're really kind of wasting your own time if that is what you only want to do it part-time. Medical coding is very demanding and it takes hours. It takes time. So really expect when you are brand new, when you have no experience, and even when you have been a nurse, right? LPNs, LVNs, or RNs, or CNAs, any of those folks, people who have been in the medical field before, and you're looking to transition over to medical coding, it is not easy. And if somebody is telling you that it is easy, it is probably because they are ill-informed or they're trying to sell you something. Because medical coding is not easy. And I know that nurses have struggled with it because I have trained LVNs, RNs, LPNs. I've trained them all, CNAs. And I've trained every single profession pretty much in the medical field who wants to learn about medical coding. So I know from experience that it's not always something that's going to be easily grasped. Even though you have the pathology down, you have the medical terminology down, it doesn't mean that the medical coding rules are going to make sense. So expect when you get into this, if this is what you want to do, If you want to transition, maybe later on at the end of your career, you want to get into medical coding because you still have that medical knowledge if you're a nurse, and you want to continue to use that, that's fine, but expect that you're going to have to be full-time. This is not something that can be done part-time if you have no experience. So one of the other things that I wanted to talk about too was somebody was asking, well, I want to do this at home and I don't have experience. If you want to do this remotely and you have no experience, well, the pandemic has changed a lot of things. There's a lot of areas that are going to a hybrid schedule where you have to be at the facility and then part-time you'll be at home. So that's not always available for brand new people, because working at home and working remotely, you have to be very independently driven. You really do have to know what you're going to get yourself into, because book coding and real world coding are two different things. And I'm not saying this to discourage anybody from wanting to get into this or try to get into this. If that is what you want to do, you want to work part-time, you want to work remotely, and you have no experience, I'm telling you, you're in for an uphill battle. And I'm just saying that to just kind of get some of that frustration out of the way, because sometimes people get into this thinking that they can do that. And then when they spin their wheels and they think that they just wasted all this money because somebody told them that they could do this part-time, or somebody told them that they can do this remotely right away. You need to be around other medical coders so that you can start to get those questions answered. Because again, when you're seeing scenarios in the book, they are written perfectly. It's going to give you all of the information. It's going to give you all the points. It's going to give you all the specificity. When you get in the real world, there's going to be things like queries that you're going to have to do. You're going to have to look in different parts of the note in order to get your answers. And so knowing that when you get in the real world, that's going to at least give you an idea of what is happening. But it doesn't necessarily mean just because you're coming from the medical field, it doesn't mean that you will excel at medical coding when you haven't had the time to develop yet. So if I had my way, brand new people would be at the facility or at the doctor's office, hands-on learning. That would be, in the ideal medical coding world, that would be the way that it is, so that you can get a feel for it. And you can also be around the providers. There's a lot of people that think, well, I don't need to talk to the providers. Yes, you do. Well, I don't need to develop relationships with providers. Yes, you do. If you have that thought process that, oh, I'm too shy, I just want a medical code. Medical coding is not just about what you want to do. Okay, it's about meeting everybody halfway, because whether or not some of these providers admit it, they actually do want to have that good communication. But it's about the medical coders learning how to communicate, because some medical coders are very good at communication, and then there are others that like that power trip of, oh, I get to tell the provider that they did wrong, and actually they're in the wrong for doing things like that, because it is your job to be the provider's teammate, first and foremost. So if that you have that is everything. You start to learn and you start to get better at your craft. You start to get better at medical coding. But you're never going to be able to get like that if you're remote coding, or you're putting yourself in those positions to only remote code or to only code part-time, because you're not giving yourself enough time to be there to be able to develop those relationships. But if it is your goal to be out there and trying to get those part-time jobs or get those remote coding jobs, and you're brand new, like I said, by all means, it's up to you. Go for it. But I will tell you that it is not ideal. It is not ideal for the development of a new medical coder. It is not ideal for your how you're going to learn, right? How you're going to learn. It's not ideal for that. And because of that, a lot of people will have that idea in their head, try to do it, and then find out that they can't do it. They can't have all these things that they want. They can't have the remote coding. They can't have the part-time job. And then they feel like, well, I just wasted all this money. So I don't want you guys to feel like you're wasting money, because it takes money to pay for these certification exams. It takes money to go through a school and program. If you are self-studying, that's something different, but you still have to pay for your books. So there's a lot of money that goes into this. And I want you guys to be able to feel like your money meant something, and not just that you feel like you wasted it because somebody told you that you can have all of these things. You can have the part-time work when you've had experience. You can have the remote coding opportunities when you've had experience. But if you're brand new, put yourself in the position of being in the facility. If that is what's going on in your area. Because like I said, in some areas, you apply at a place that you have to physically go, like a hospital. And they say, well, right now, because of the pandemic, we're still sending people home to work. That is something, that's the facility, and that's fine if that's the case. But don't look for it, okay? Put yourself in a position to actually be in a place where you have to physically go. When I started as a medical coder, you know, I really wanted to be in the facility. They told us, even at the school, oh yeah, you can work remotely, you can work at home. And I never wanted to work at home. I never wanted to just be away. I wanted to be like in the action, because I was more interested in hearing, well, sometimes you may work in a clinic, and so you'll be able to see your doctors and be able to ask them questions. And I'm like, I was much more interested in that because of the simple fact that I like to learn. And who better to learn from than a doctor that you're coding for what they're trying to say in their documentation? Because medical documentation is a completely different language. And if you're coming from the medical field, you know that right away. You know that. So don't put yourselves in positions to be frustrated, because if you're working at home, guaranteed, and you have no experience, guaranteed you're going to be lost in the sauce. Because understanding it and getting it when you're in school is one thing. But when you get in the real world and you start having to work with these different electronic health records and these different encoders and things like that, if you work with an encoder, some facilities don't have encoders and you have to still work with the book. So if you are working with these different things, it's going to take a lot of time to learn. So the best scenario is to put yourself in a position where you're going to be at a facility working and really kind of diving in. So that is my advice when it comes to that. You know, a lot of people think that it's flashy and glamorous to work at home and to do this in your spare time. Guys, it's not. This is not a spare time thing. This is, you need full devotion. Medical coding is very jealous. It wants your attention, and you will think about it when you leave for the day. When you clock out, you will still think about it. You guarantee you will have scenarios and situations where you're thinking about it, like, you know, you coded it a particular way, and then you think, maybe I shouldn't have used that code. I should have used another code. And then you're going to find yourself looking through the book later on. That's what I did. That's what a lot of people that I have known have done when it comes to thinking about these codes after the fact, after you leave work. Okay. So again, give yourselves a chance to really immerse yourself in the experience of being a medical coder, and don't come in with a lot of preconceived notions that you are wanting to do it a certain way. Your goal when you get your certification, get a job. That's your goal, because that's going to give you that, okay, now you're in the real world, and now you're going to be here and you're going to learn. So take the time, take the opportunity, seize it with both hands, and really run after it, because that's the only way you're going to know if you truly love doing this. I hear from people all the time, I'm a student, Blue, and I have passion for medical coding. You have excitement about medical coding. That's what you have, is excitement. The passion doesn't come into play until you are in the real world. You've been in real life scenarios. You are actually going through, and you don't feel like your job is work. You feel like if they didn't pay you, you'd be fine. Obviously, everybody needs to be paid. Yes, I get it. But when you have passion is something that you feel. You'll feel it inside. You'll feel it like, I can't wait to do this. And I'm so excited about going to work because I know what I'm going to do. I have this plan for how I want to do these things. And that's passion. When you have that, When you're in school and you're learning it, it's excitement. When you're in the field, you've had time in, you've experienced the good and the bad, and you still say that you would do it all over again, that's passion. So really, when you think about these things, it's a lot, guys. It is a lot. And tomorrow I'm going to be talking about how to stop yourself from becoming overwhelmed when you're studying for medical coding. If you are still a student, or perhaps you're out there still looking for work and you're still studying along the way, because that's what you should be doing. Don't get so far out of your program, so far out of your certification, and neglecting the books. Okay, you don't want to neglect the books. You still have to study, because you got to keep that stuff fresh in your mind. Even if you're working a different job, you need to be able to still be able to recall those things. I've had many conversations with people who said, well, Blue, I got my certification last year, but I haven't been able to get a job, but I have an interview, but I've forgotten everything. Okay, it's your responsibility to still study. That's the thing that you have to do. You don't want to lose those skills. You don't want to lose that in your mind. You want to have it fresh in your mind. And yes, while you don't have that that looming test date hanging over your head anymore because you have your certification, you still need to make sure that you're at least spending time once a week, at least working through a workbook and working through scenarios, going through and practicing somehow, some way. There's free websites called, the one that I always recommend is Just Coding, justcoding.com. They have a free subscription and they have a paid subscription. And the free side gives you access to 5-question coding quizzes, and that covers diagnosis coding, procedure coding for the outpatient and the inpatient setting. So it is worthwhile to check out. There's lots of really good resources out there, but you have to be responsible enough to go out there and look at them. So again, I wish everybody the best on their journey. Everybody's journey is different. And the things that I tell you guys is my advice, that to make it a little less a little less unknown to you. At least you have some idea of what is happening. And that is why the viewer is not seeing a lot of those part-time work, because it's not for brand new medical coders. It is for people who have experience and who have been in the field, and they know they can have this production, they can do this in a short amount of time. And that is the goal of somebody who is trying to hire somebody to work part-time. Medical coders are very expensive. And a lot of us, we are looked at like, you're very expensive. And I'm going to try to save as much and get as much out of you as I possibly can. And that's when you have to be able to show that you're valuable. When you can show that you're valuable, then you're worth it. Then you're worth there's expense. Now, I know many really phenomenal coders that facility should be thanking God every day for those coders, because there's coders who do really good, and they protect that hospital, they protect those providers because they code very well. So you want to make sure that you're one of those coders who codes very well, and not just like, oh, hey, I'm here to collect a check and go home. I talk about on my channel that this field is very intellectual, and you have to want to do this. You have to want to spend your time learning, not just when you're at work, but when you go home. You still have to devote a little bit of that personal time to learning so that it can be easier for you at work. I still study continuously between 10 and 20 hours per week. And that's on top of my own schedule. And I work a full-time job. So there's a lot of things that you have to make personal sacrifices for. But when you do, and you're willing to accept that, it makes your profession of being a medical coder a lot easier, because you're going to be able to understand. The people that are lost in the sauce are the people that are not investing that time, not investing, looking at the videos for anatomy and medical terminology, or not reading those articles from CMS, right? You want to read those articles from CMS. You want to look for all of those really good resources that are out there that can help you to better understand what this field is. Because again, it is a lot, and it's going to be a huge commitment. So you have to keep that in mind when you're signing up for this. Try not to think that you can do this part-time if you're brand new. You want to be able to devote time to it. You want to be able to be hands-on in the facility because that's the best way for you to learn. Otherwise, if you're sitting at home thinking that you can work at home and, oh yeah, I can watch the kids and I can do laundry and I can do this. If you were at the office, you wouldn't be doing none of that. And a lot of times when you work at home, the standards for productivity and accuracy are always a little bit higher than you would be in the facility. Because the facility, they understand that there's interruptions. But at home, you're held to a higher standard because they expect you to be working. And this is not something that you can say, oh yeah, well, I'll do this, in my spare time. Again, this is not a spare time thing. So I hope that you all take this seriously and think about it when you're getting into it. Give the field a chance, work it full time so that way you can really get it and understand what's happening. At least that's just my advice anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. I hope that you've hit that like button. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe already, I hope that you do. And I will see y'all on the next episode. Bye.